y'all know, 3 practices down, practice number 4. You know, kind of where I thought we would be at. I think if you did a poll of any coach after practice 3, you know, you never think your team is where it needs to be at this particular point in time, but we're still in the infant stages of really developing our identity, our habits and our fundamentals, our details of what it takes to play winning football. I think they've been lacking a little bit. Situational football, trying to expose them to as many situations as possible. And the biggest thing is, as you enter now into practice 4, is your practice etiquette. You go from helmets to now shoulder pads, and then obviously day 5 is full pads, but them understanding the progressions and the tempos from tag to thud and the details that go into tag and thud, and when we rush the quarterback, running behind the quarterback. You know, I think our pursuit, I think our overall effort has been very, very good overall as a football team. But I think just the overall fundamentals, the details, you know, not looking around, always competing and never comparing with what's going on. And then also recovery. Our players are challenged right now, obviously, with the full academic workload and practice and finding the time to invest in their bodies with recovery. And part of the recovery process is also fatigue, mental fatigue. So again, are you getting 20 minutes of quiet time? What it takes to recharge your batteries, finding those times, sacrificing getting in bed a little bit early, staying ahead of your academic studies. All those things go hand in hand with the sleep and the hydration and all that, but the mental fatigue as well. As we know, it's a line of scrimmage league. I thought putting the shoulder pads on, the speed of the game changed up. For our offensive line, we were able to move the front a little bit more, and we struggled a little bit, but that's what training camp is all about. It's about working through adversity, persevering, finding out which individuals are mentally equipped to make it through a long season, in the toughness part of it. Not only the physical toughness, but the mental toughness, the ability to communicate. You know, like I told our football team this morning, we need to embrace the day. You know, it's a chance to improve our body language, our communication, our toughness with everything that we do, our fundamentals, our details of what it takes to play at a high level on a consistent basis. So those are all the things that we're going through, but in closing, I think we're kind of where I thought we would be. Now, how do we take the next step? And we don't have to be game ready yet. How do we take the next step with all those things that I just discussed?
Raise your hand, any questions? Start with John, Rachel, and then who else we got?
Butch Jalen Hurd just said the way this team works, you guys are ready to play a game now. Do you agree with that?
No. Jalen, that's why you love him. He's ready to play anytime, but there's so much that goes into it to preparing a team. And I just spoke about it from the mental aspect of it to the fundamental aspect of it to special teams. And then being in football condition, you know, are you able to play at a high level, the 9th and 10th play of an extended drive, whether it's on offense or defense, the ability to handle sudden change, situational football, 1-minute offense, 4-minute offense, so many things that go into it. I love his mindset. That's what makes him special, but we have a long, long ways to go.
And following up to that, all the situational football that you've already discussed, are you further along or throwing more active in that regard because you are such a veteran team or have more veterans than you've had your first 3 years?
You can never assume. And so we've started from ground zero, but probably a little bit ahead in terms of situational football, of them understanding 3rd down, 1st down, them understanding FPOS, first play of a series. It's the only mystery down in football because the coordinators are going to be 50-50 with it, where every other down and distance have tendencies associated with it. Understanding splits of receivers, splits of offensive line, stances, reading eyes. There's so much that goes into the game I don't think a lot of people realize in terms of the fundamental aspect when I talk about it. The eye discipline, understanding your assignments, being able to execute at a high level when tired, not letting the mind tie the feet up. All those things that go into it. And that's the beauty of training camp. That's why training camp is one of the best times of the year, because every day is an opportunity for growth and to get better.
Go Jimmy, then Steve, Rob, Patrick, and Dustin.
Butch, I know it's really early, but do you think that, based on what you've seen, that the freshman wide receivers might be even better than you thought when you signed them?
I'm excited about that group. Now they have a long way to go. They're still learning what it takes to perform at a high level, day in and day out, but I've been exceptionally pleased. Tyler Bird has done a remarkable job, still learning the fine details, but competes every single day. Brandon Johnson has really done a great job, but they're still puppies. They're youngsters. Marquez Callaway is doing a good job as well. I think the entire freshman class is doing a good job, and really, for the first time, we still have, lack of depth at a number of spots, but we're able to put some threes on the field in team situations, and they're able to compete, and it looks like football. A lot of times you put the threes out, and it looks like Brent Hubb's playing football, and we all know that's probably not very good. Lo and behold, Austin plays, but
Steve in front.
And then what I would do is I would just have Dustin be the coach of the team, and then that would be like my dream day.
Go Steve, and then Rob.
We've got that.
I left you out, by the way. I won't put you in that.
My age, I forgot to ask this the other day, just any roster changes in terms of departures. I guess Dontavius Blair, Cody Blank. Just if you can go over whoever's not.
Cody Blank has decided to graduate and move on, and wish him all the best. Dontavius Blair is no longer part of the program. Joe Stockstill, again, I give Stock a lot of credit. Great young man, came a long way in our program, and went from a walk-on to earning a scholarship. And just comes time, our body says no at some point in time in our career. That's what happened there, and wish all those individuals the best.
Rob?
Coach, we all thought, before practice started, just looking, I guess, everywhere, but in the secondary in particular, so much faster, so much more athletic. Has that kind of borne out for you in the first 3 days?
Yeah, but lack of details and fundamentals right now at that position group. And you press with your feet, and yesterday was the first day of press, but we break penalties down into 3 sections: pre-snap penalties, combative penalties, and personal fouls. We had way too many combative penalties yesterday, and that usually happens the first day of press, but that's a group that their attention to detail has to pick up, and they will. It's a very prideful group. They're extremely competitive, but we expect a lot. We demand a lot from that position group, but just the overall fundamentals, I expect more from that group, and I know we'll get more.
With Jalen Hurd, how do you kind of toe the line between making sure you get him enough contact during camp to get him ready for the season without maybe risking or beating him too much?
It is a fine line. I know that come game day, Jalen Hurd will be ready. He's proven it over time. What we have to do is make sure that we get him his touches in practice, that it's very calculated when he takes hits, but a back like that needs to take hits at times because he's got to be game ready, and a back's going to get hit, he's going to get tackled, but we have to do a great job of managing that, and I know that he'll be ready to go when it's game time, but that's a good question because we do have to manage that, and we have a plan in place for that.
A couple more questions about his kind of offseason. First of all, I guess what was your reaction when you see him hopping on a treadmill at 23 miles an hour? Second of all, kind of how do you go about your players if they come to you about wanting to go elsewhere to do some training during the summer?
I welcome that. This is a very driven group, and if they have an opportunity over break, they just have to understand their body, and as long as it doesn't affect them in terms of rest and recovery, I'm good with that. I always say I'd rather say whoa than sickle, and we have a group at times that we have to say whoa, which is a great thing as a coach. I do think it's a balancing act. In terms of looking and seeing that on video, I had to look the other way and pretend I didn't see it, and then he got a lecture from me with a phone call of being smart and taking care of himself. But Jalen's extremely competitive. If you challenge him, he's going to answer the challenge. But very, very driven. And again, if they can make themselves better and they're driven, I'm all for that.
Go Dustin, Mike, Paul, Ryan, and Austin. We can wrap it up.
Coach DeBoer said yesterday that Josh Dobbs is a lot more comfortable kind of calling on the group, you know, kind of addressing the offense as a whole than he has been in recent years. Is that true? Was he kind of nervous about doing that before? Was he a little reticent to do that before? Was he a lot more willing to speak in front of like maybe the whole offense or the whole team than he was a year ago?
I just think it's been a maturation process. Josh is a leader. Josh does a great job in that regards, but he has been much more outspoken, much more vocal this camp, pulling the team up, talking to them, having constructive criticism and encouragement when they needed it, being demanding of himself. He's done that in the past, but I don't think as much as what he's displayed, and I think that comes with confidence. I think that comes with maturity and growing into his role. So I've been very pleased with his leadership, his overall direction of the offense, but I think it's just been a maturation phase over time.
Mike?
Coach, I know you've been a head coach for a while now, but every year I got to think it's a little bit different. And, talking with coordinators, how they tweak and look to do things different. What's your mindset, and what are some of the things that maybe you're trying to remind yourself to do different, or thoughts you have going into this season that maybe you haven't done before, or maybe you're doing more or less of?
Well, I always keep a journal. I've kept a journal now for 9 years of things that you learn. Even I have a journal as an assistant coach, and then, you know, I have training camp manuals, and each day I'll write down my thoughts on my mind and where we're at as a team. And, you know, every day I go home, you know, I spend about an hour of thinking, if I had the day to do over again, would I do it anything differently? And I think the big thing is in our profession, especially as a head coach, is the ability to adapt and adjust to your team. No two teams are ever the same, from leadership to the personality, to the maturity, to the dynamics of the team. So you have to be willing to adjust. Never compromise your standards and your expectations, but there may be a little different ways of doing things. And this team is different. This camp is already a little bit different from our topics of our team meetings to a little bit of the structure of practice. I'm excited. Deion Grant is going to be here Friday and Saturday. And I think it's important that we bring back former players that have lived this program, played at a high level, and have them be around our players and have them talk about communication and teamwork and all those things that are associated with that. So we'll continue to do that. Inky Johnson, I believe, is coming in later this month as well, and we'll continue to bring in former players. But I just think that is big. But I think you have to constantly evolve in this profession. If you don't, it's going to pass you up. So, you know, like I talked about when the preseason started, you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to be a better version of you every year. And I think it's, you know, listening to what your players needs, and then them understanding this is how you're going to get them to those goals, dreams, and aspirations. And there's different ways of doing it, but you know, we're doing things differently. And I don't just change to change, but I do think you have to be able to adapt and adjust based on the personalities of the organization.
We're going to finish up with Paul, Ryan, Austin, Wes, and Daniel.
Butch, you talked about, I think it was after the first day of practice, that the defensive ends looked really good. Did they back that up once the pads went on yesterday?
Been very, very pleased with our defensive front, particularly the speed of coming off our edges. There's great competition there. They're pushing each other. But I've been very, very pleased. You know, one of the other things we've talked about is positive competition. And I think a lot of times, you know, players don't understand the definition of positive competition. We want to compete in everything that we do. But really, the only competition really that you're going up against every single day is you. It's not the person you're going out. We may do circle life. We may do one-on-ones every day. Really, they're not your competition. Yourself is your competition. And that's what we talk about, positive competition and rewarding the winners in a positive way. But that's kind of been the topic today, is positive competition. And, you know, I think that was kind of generated with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, and have talked to a lot of coaches around the NFL the last couple days and going into training camp. Mike, that's one of the other things is you try to, talked to many coaches that have been through similar situations of you, and maybe basketball coaches, baseball coaches, it may be football coaches, but you try to generate as much information as possible. But the positive competition aspect, and too many times people want to compare and not compete. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Worry about you. Do your job. But the defensive line has done a very good job. It's going to only make our offense better each and every day, and there's great competition there.
Coach, just a couple quick health updates. What is Latrell Williams' status? And just through the first day in pads, has Shy been able to do any more or less than he thought he might be able to do so far?
Shy is about doing exactly what we spoke of. He's conditioning, he's running, he's doing a few individual drills. In terms of Latrell Williams, he's nursing a hamstring. We expect to get him back next week. So he's got to make sure that he's doing a great job, which he is, of being mentally in the playbook. So when he gets out there and gets ready to go, he's ready to go. But really, from an injury standpoint, it's really status quo right now.
But you talked on Monday about not having the top 5, having 6, 7, and 8 along the offensive line. Can you talk about how important, even yesterday and then starting Saturday with full pads is for a guy like Drew Richmond, Jack Jones, and Denzel Boyer?
All those youngsters, it's critical for everyone. And what you did last year has absolutely no bearing on this year. You have to reprove yourself. Football is a humbling game. You have to prove yourself day in and day out. And so you have to bring it every single day, particularly when you're in the trenches. What's asked of them, what's required of them, the mental toughness, the physical toughness. So to me, all positions are open, and they're competing. I like the way they're competing, but you can never have enough depth on the offensive line. But the reps that the youngsters that you just spoke about are gaining right now are invaluable. Spring football was invaluable, and they're doing a really good job. All those individuals have had very good summers. So there's great competition there, and I don't look at it as a starting 5. You have to have 8 to 9 guys that can play up front, and I'm not opposed to rotating guys. If you earn playing time, you're going to play, and you decide your playing time. But I've been pleased with those guys in terms of their work ethic, and the entire team. I'm telling you, for what we've asked of them in school and practicing late at night and getting off the practice field and eating and recovery and getting back, and then these youngsters, we get off the practice field, they shower, they eat, and they go to study hall. And so there's a lot that's being asked of them, and I've been very impressed. I've been very happy with the way our players have responded with the schedule.
Yeah, Wes and Danny.
Coach, I think we might already know your answer to this one anyway, but we'll go ahead and ask. I think the coaches poll came out and y'all were 10th. Any thoughts on that?
You're the first person, I can honestly sit up here and tell you, the first person that's told me that. I think Ryan is already conditioned. He didn't even tell me that. I don't read.
Doesn't help us get better.
I don't read anything into that. There's nothing for us. Maybe it's great for our fan base and the excitement and all that. But in terms of we're responsible for what we create. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And 1 minute spent even thinking about that is a minute wasted that you could be working on your football team.
Finish up with Danny.
Coach, with the new rule with retweeting kids on social media, I know you guys are very active in that. You guys, I know over 100 retweets about 5:30 in the morning the other day. You woke me up with it. But how valuable is that rule change? Is that just to kind of get these kids more thinking about Tennessee?
Yeah, it's one of those things that change in the rules, and so we're going to follow the rules. And as we all know here, everything is about recruiting. You win with great players, you win with great character, and so it's kind of a great way to start your morning off or at night. And it's kind of my mental escape a little bit from football for a little bit. And as we all know, recruiting is all relationship based, and we're in the process of building very, very strong bonds and very, very strong relationships that great families have. So really that's what's come of it, but it's been a rule change, and you know what, we're going to use it. the best that we can and not let it interfere, obviously, with our current team or anything like that. But I have had to have my thumbs popped a little bit, but our staff has done a great job. But again, I just enjoy that because it's about building these relationships.
Thank you, guys.